Okay, we are recording. Can you hear me all right, Jim?
Loud and clear, my dear friend.
Okay, awesome. I put my headset in because I have a 1-year-old running around the house who he's my little chimpanzee. Sometimes I call him my little chimpanzee because he'll just scream out of nowhere. It's awesome. It's not a bad thing.
1-year-old running around and a 2-year-old on screen.
Yeah. So yeah, my little chimpanzee. I know you have a grandson who's around the same age as my son.
It's so magical.
That's a really cool thing we've been able to connect about. So, and my parents, it's my parents. I don't know. Is this your first? How many grandchildren do you have?
So we're a blended family. Susie has 3 on like her oldest daughter, and this is
Right.
the first for my side of the
Got
family, so to speak. And my oldest daughter is expecting again here in December, so it'll be number 2. It's pretty cool.
That's so soon, dude. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I know that's something we've connected on too, because I can also feel like the joy of my parents. It's our son is their first grandchild as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool for them, and they just glow when they get to be around them and talk about them. And I feel so blessed that my parents want to be so involved and they're so stoked on my son, it's their own, which it is,
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to people watching this interview. I just want to give you an introduction, everyone. This is retired Colonel Jim Donihee, and I'll let you say more about yourself as well, and your past and what you've done, and the whole span of different types of organizations you've had the experience of working with and leadership. Jim, you're just someone you're also part of our trainer team for the Accelerated Evolution Academy. And that's where Jim and I have gotten to know each other through doing this accelerated evolution work. And we've just had an instant ongoing connection that's just so awesome. And I feel so grateful. And so, Jim, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. The purpose of these interviews, I'm interviewing, the inspiring people in my life. I'm interviewing our whole Accelerated Evolution team. So I wanted to make sure, I got the interview with you, because I really think it's important that we're sharing the Accelerated Evolution work and what it really means, what it's really all about. It's not about just just selling Accelerated Evolution, but it's about sharing what we're really about, the expansion of this work and how amazing this work is. So yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, well, it's such a privilege to, I think we're a bit of a mutual admiration society. So, I say right up front how much I admire you and, what you're doing at this stage and age kind of thing in life. To be the caliber of person that you are is absolutely remarkable. And I am equally inspired, to have the opportunity to interact with you and others of your caliber. So, if there's an opportunity these next few minutes to share a few gems with your network and people that matter to you, it's just a real privilege for me to hook up with you.
Thank you so much, Jim. Yeah. So can you share a little, if you had 5 minutes to share the important pieces of your life story, maybe some of the blessings of your life, the beauty of your life, your professional experience, and also some of the main challenges that have happened for you in your life. Please share what you're moved to share.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, probably, average kid starting out like everybody else, pretty modest beginnings, but like many, perhaps I had the dream of flying as a kid growing up. And, for me, one of the ways to get, eventually through high school and through university, because pretty modest means, was to aspire to go to one of the military colleges in Canada. So that's what I did. My dream was to fly single seat fighters. So it's a pretty elite cadre of folks that ever sort of con their way into a single seat fighter, and that was my dream come true kind of thing. So dating myself, but in the early 80s, right out of university, trained to fly single seat fighters and spent the next probably 28 years of my life flying in the Canadian Air Force. And
wow, almost 30 years.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
I was just a kid when I started, so I'm not that old, but yeah, it was a big chunk of my life. And I think what if there's a gem that came out of all of that for me around a lot of leadership development, leadership opportunities that I had. What matters most to me is people. And I tell the story about a common thread because I've been blessed with some opportunities in other sectors as well, in both large public companies and not-for-profit companies. But if you focus on what matters most, and that's people, always hearts and minds, aligning people, caring about people, as a leader, caring about them more than often you care about yourself, and putting them first and creating the conditions for their success, then magic's going to happen. And I'm very blessed to have led a lot of large organizations and so on along the way, and had a hell of a lot of fun flying single seat fighters, as you can imagine, and in places all around the world. And so in a nutshell, professionally, that's what happened. I retired after the military in 2000, and then moved into the corporate sector, and then kind of went from being a content expert, if you will, in that industry, be it the military, to knowing how to knit organizations together. And so I ended up being, an executive vice president of organizational effectiveness for one of the largest oil and gas companies in Canada, and led the merger of these, entities, and creating culture and creating success and doing a lot of leadership development. And it just speaks to my passion. It's about people, helping them grow, helping them learn, helping them find, the depths of their own potential in order to grow and succeed. And it's just a joy for me.
That is so cool. And you're definitely an expert in that, helping people find their depth and potential. And I also notice your presence and how you are, and with your life experience, you just know how to approach people in a way that allows them to open up, where people feel comfortable around you. They feel happy to be around you. At least that's how I've always, maybe I'm projecting onto others. That's how I've always felt. I felt very open and comfortable and good when I'm with you. And I also think you have a powerful presence as far as that ability to offer leadership and coaching. So did you ever see combat in your time as a pilot?
I led the Canadian contingent in the operations over Yugoslavia in the late 90s, 99, 2000. So I was, a battle commander for the NATO forces that were stationed in Italy, and led the Canadian contingent there. So that was it. I was only transitioning to the F-18 at the time of the first of the war in the Gulf and those sorts of operations. But so it was sort of, as I led the peacemaking operation, if you will, that took place over Yugoslavia. It was about 15,000 U.S., Canadian, NATO forces involved in that.
Wow. What were some things that you learned or took away from that kind of an experience?
Well, I think, when it comes to anything, it's, if your desired outcome is excellence, then you need to work at it. End of story. And it doesn't matter what discipline you're talking about. I mean, that, and I admire the black belt that you wear, and it reflects professionalism and a willingness and an openness to learn, a commitment to continuous improvement, and always striving to get better. And it means often that you need to find a way to park your ego at the door, that you're going to hear some stuff and you need to be open to it, and it says that you didn't do as well as you could or should have. And okay, well, let's learn from it, and as long as there's not a willful negligence to underperforming, that shit happens, then you got to just find out where the lessons are and buckle down and go at improving and figure out how you're going to do that. And particularly interesting when you talk about a large multinational force like that, where you've got sort of similar means of operating, but at the same time different means of operating. You have to find a way to pull the lessons out of that, and hold each other accountable for the accomplishment of the aim that's set out before you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about right there. If you want to experience excellence, you got to work at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right? That's what you said. And
Yeah.
you gotta put in time. You have to, as we speak about in reality transurfing, you have to have the determination to have and act, right? And that's what you're speaking about there so powerfully. And um, so yeah, thank you for that share.
And then the other beauty, in terms of reality transferring and referring to that, is about lowering your own self-importance. And I think that's one of the major lessons out of leadership as well, is that when you lower your own self-importance as the leader and make sure that you've got your arms wrapped around, everybody that is, reporting up to you, and that you're doing everything in your power to ensure they succeed. That's really what it's about. And when I transfer to the corporate sector, I had so many people sort of say, well, it's just easy in the military. You just order people what to do, right? And it's like, well, no, like
No.
in many ways, in a very short order, if your sole method of operations is about ordering people, be it in the military or in any walk of life, you're going to find out in a hurry it does not work for very long.
Yeah,
And they're going to find a way to let you know that they're not interested in simply being ordered. They are people.
yeah,
They deserve your care and your attention and your love and your absolute commitment to looking after them.
yeah. So I love the topic you just brought up, and I have a question for you that came up with me with that I think is a really could be a helpful topic for a lot of people. And that idea of when you're in a leadership role, lowering your own self-importance, kind of putting yourself below the people that you're leading, as opposed to what can happen in a lot of leadership roles where people, if their ego gets involved, they start thinking they are above the people they're leading, right? And then all the dynamics that creates. And we talk about this a lot in our accelerated evolution work, is how do you get underneath the client and support them, in a real way. And how would one distinguish? And then there's also the dynamic of when people say, some people lower their self-importance in a way that's destructive to themselves, where they're only looking after other people. You see, like, say, the mother who lowers her own self-importance, but it's kind of from a place of insecurity or not knowing how to take care of herself. Now her health is really bad and she's struggling because she thinks, oh, I have to take care of the kids, I don't have time to take care of myself. Or someone who says, a manager that says, I have to take care of my team, I don't have time to take care of myself. How would you distinguish the difference between the healthy lowering of self-importance to be in leadership and the destructive lowering of self-importance to be in leadership?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about, first and foremost, what is the aim? What's the outcome that we're trying to achieve? And then you really need to find a way to sustain a healthy balance between, what happens in an airliner when they say, put your own oxygen mask on first and then help those around you.
Yeah,
and or making sure that, you get theirs on and you never get your own on and you end up succumbing to, the smoke or the fumes or whatever the case is. And so, my own approach, my own personal approach, and, it's going to vary for everyone. My own personal approach, I probably carry a very healthy balance of making sure that I look after everybody around me and making sure that I do put them first, but not to the point where it is so detrimental to myself that I'm incapable of keeping the big picture, because you as the leader are the one who is accountable to make sure that, the overall outcome is achieved. And so if you allow yourself to be so spent in the process that you're not operating well enough to, to keep that big picture and really ensure that everyone is thriving, and that includes you, not you
yeah,
first necessarily, but it has to include you in that totality of thriving. Then that's really what it comes down to is, for a long while as a leader, I kind of went by the mantra of eat last, sleep less, and look after the team, and great things will happen. And I too got to the point where, like, I almost had a burnout and a breakdown because I was not looking after myself. And because I wasn't looking after myself well enough, I was then not even in a good place to look after the team. And so
Right.
that's, that's why you have to make sure that you find that balance, because if you as the leader are not functioning well, rested, fit, sharp mentally, you're not going to be able to keep that big picture and look after the team either. So you need the balance.
Right. Right. So not looking out for yourself at all is not looking out for the team.
No, no, no. I mean,
Right. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
and if you look at, there's times perhaps when it needs to be that way, but you can't live life that way. Like you can't live
Yeah.
life as if it's a 100-yard dash. There may be moments in your life when it feels like that, and that's the way you need to. But I mean, this is a long game, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
game. And so, you want to be in it for the long haul. You want to be able to look after yourself and those that you love and care about for the long haul, which means Icky Bob has to figure in the equation.
Yeah, I got it. So what I hear you speaking to is sort of like over time learning how to find that balance and boundaries where yes, you're putting your team first, your organization first, your clients first, say, but you're also over time, you learn how to keep that balance for yourself and also, take care of them and do what needs to be done for the desired outcome.
There's a really beautiful way to think about it too. And if you have, some valuable friends and confidants and people who love you as much as you love them, a good question to ask is, would you like to be me when you grow up? And if they look at you and say, you're kind of I mean, I like what you're doing for me, but you look like a burnt out wreck that I don't quite aspire to be, then the odds
Yeah.
are that you're spending yourself a little too hard. Like you need to live your life in a way that creates an invitation for others to want to emulate. And if they see a burnt out shell that, yes, is very loving and giving, but hollow and scarred and injured in the process,
Drained.
it's
Yeah.
not much of an inspiration.
Right. Yeah. So and then that speaks to the importance of having community for reflection
Yeah. Oh,
for the
beautiful.
important things in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that share. I think that's a really important thing for a lot of people, whether it's in corporations or small businesses or military or parents or coaches, or if you're coaching a sports team or you're coaching clients or anything.
Mhm.
That's so important because that's a lot of what we focus on doing, right, in our work is training leaders, training leadership, helping people grow into balanced, mature, strong leaders and utilizing AE methodology in order to do that. And that's such an important component is like what's the healthy lowering of self-importance, the balanced lowering of self-importance, and the destructive lowering of self-importance.
Yeah, there's a big,
Yeah.
and some of the keywords that you use there are balanced. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'd say there's a big difference between the lowering of self-importance and the submission of yourself to the team. There's a real subtlety in that play of words around what's involved. And, and whether it's as a parent, I've been there, done that, a loving parent, and blessed to be a grandfather now, which is really magical. I've some corporate leadership roles and so on. And I work with a lot of corporate leaders now in transition. And that's the beautiful elements of the work that we do in Accelerated Evolution, where, they got caught up in the chase. They got so owned, by a single identity, be it, the corporate executive or the parent that gives only so much of themselves, or the leader that has no balance in life, and they get miles down the journey thinking, look at me, aren't I successful? I got all the bells and whistles around the house. I have the biggest, best cars. And I do work with people like that now who, upon retirement or when that particular role ends, they're hollow and empty inside because they never took a moment to find out who they are and what truly brings joy and fulfillment to them. They got riches and wealth up the yin yang, but they have no clue who they are, and they're hollow and empty and still searching because who they were was that title, which has nothing to do with who they truly are.
Yeah. So tell me more about the type of people that you work with now that you're speaking to that. Tell us
Yeah.
more about that.
I mean, so first and foremost, I'm blessed to work with people like you and to learn and study from you and with you and so on. But I still tend to focus on kind of the corporate world a little bit. I love, especially given my background in the military and some of the things that I've done along the way. I have this very, very special place in my heart for first responders and people that have been exposed to really intense experiences, PTSD type situations, things of that nature. And so that, that speaks to me, not only from experiences that I knew, but, my ability to relate and give of my own knowledge and services to help them. And a lot of teamwork, and I think it's, I think we're seeing such a beautiful unfolding at the moment where the whole sort of corporate model that used to be all about, it's all about profit, man. I got so many nested Excel spreadsheets that tell me how much money I'm making. Like the world is great. And yet that too is a very empty chase. That's why I admire, powerful young leaders like yourself, where I was saying, like, you know what? I mean, profit's cool, but in fact, I'd rather make less and be more. I'd rather, I don't need the profit. What I do need is to go home whole. What I do need is, an opportunity to learn and grow and contribute and be part of something that's about way more than just making money. And, that really juices me at the moment in terms of having an opportunity to, awaken leaders, senior leaders in that way. And I figured, my mantra now is sort of awakened leaders, conscious lives. And so by working with leaders and helping them awaken and begin to see things differently, I feel like I still have the opportunity to touch, every single person that works in that company indirectly, because, the company will unfold as a function of, its leaders. The level of awareness of its leadership really dictates the value of the culture within the organization.
What are the most important things for people in leadership, say in a corporation? What are the most important things for those leaders to be embodying and understanding in their roles? As far as what we're talking about, like creating a healthy company culture, of course, the purpose of a corporation is to make money and grow, and right, but it's also to provide a service. And then we also, if you're in the frame of mind that we're in, we want everyone to be as healthy as possible, as joyful, as fulfilled as possible in those roles. So in order to do that, what do people in leadership roles in those corporations and those companies need to be doing?
So I think they need to come to know themselves, and I think, again, for me, that, I've always come at it from the viewpoint personally that says, culture trumps strategy. Like the team, when you can truly foster the depth of affinity, of love, of trust, especially of, collaboration and growth amongst the people, then like success is virtually guaranteed right from the get-go. And so if you come at it, through the lens of an Excel spreadsheet in terms of only driving numbers, it ends up being a pretty empty, hollow building with a bunch of automatons, running around inside it, where people just, it's hard to care about one another when, if you're working XY theory alone and getting spanked with this, and it's not focused on learning, it's not focused on growth. So care first about your people, care about what's unfolding in the world. Take a look at what's going on out there and figure out how to, like, the client, the client is changing. The client is the world. The expectations of, young leaders and beautiful folks, such as yourself and your audience, I'm sure, they don't want stuff coming out of the same old mold. They want a new approach. And the corporations need to figure that out, need to answer the invitation, or they
Yeah.
just to perish.
I think there are more and more figuring it out, definitely, but there's still some that are stuck in that way. I know I've never worked in the corporate world, but my mom has worked in the corporate world for years, working for like Wells Fargo and US Bank and uh, Morgan Stanley and these different companies. And man, I sort of get that view from her. She shares with me the dynamics that are happening in some of those offices, and it's just horrible. It's just horrific. She's in these really toxic environments, exactly what you're talking about. So when I hear people doing the work that you're talking about, it's just because I know how many people work in the corporate world, how many people work in the corporate sector, and corporations essentially are running the world right now. So we need that influence of essentially consciousness, and even simplify that terminology, humanity, people really caring about one another, because there's a big lack of that at the moment.
Yeah.
People are overly stressed and just forced to produce numbers, and then treated like children when they're not performing exactly how they're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, what I think what matters to me too, and it's kind of interesting where, and it's a dichotomy in terms of the way I grew up, and maybe it has to do with it, but like in the military, there is no HR. There's no such thing as human resources in the military. As a leader, you're the leader. You do it. I mean, if there's growth to be done, you do it. If there's feedback to be given, you do it. And I find in the corporate world often, you'll have, it's kind of like if a relationship, for example, between you and I gets strained or stressed, or, we're having a problem, I, pick up the phone and call the HR rep and say, look at, Mary Jean, I'm having a huge problem, or Billy Joe, I'm having a huge problem with Andrew here. Will you do me a favor and fix that? Click, and it's like HR intercedes, and it's like I was probably at least 50% of the cause of the problem, and yet it's like I'm phoning somebody else to try and fix this. And
Right.
As we circle back quickly to accelerated evolution, I mean, that's the absolute beauty of this work, is that we each of us, way too often we end up, we have these elephants that are sitting in every room in our house or in every room in the corporation, and we're doing our best to sort of walk around them, and don't
Right.
never address the elephant in the room. And the beauty of accelerated evolution, and for leaders, as folks that are coming on now, is to some of the tools and processes and the ability to understand that I need to address my own fears. I need to find my own conviction and confidence to deal with those elephants. I need to accept responsibility for my own growth and the role that I play in the situations. And even more importantly, I need to find a way to be empathetic to the role of the other individuals in terms of what's playing out. And so, some of the processes and tools and techniques and approaches that are prevalent within accelerated evolution are phenomenal. Literally some of the best
Yeah.
I've seen in all of my travels over many years of leadership and service and giving of myself.
That's awesome. And it's such a more fulfilling way to live, like all those things you just described.
Yeah.
How has this work with accelerated evolution and just any of the what we could call like consciousness work, or even in the realm of spirituality, how has all of that impacted your life, and what's your journey been like with that?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. And as I say, it's interesting for me because I truly am, I would always have characterized myself as a people person. I care deeply about people. And I think that's a large part of what always, set me and had me stand out as a leader as well. And, there's nothing more rewarding than 15 or 20 years after you've worked with somebody and had the opportunity to be their leader, the privilege of being their leader, to have them come up and shake your hand and say, Jimmy, boss, like anywhere, anytime, I would work together with you, for you in a heartbeat. And that is, it's just such testimony to the fact that they know you cared about them. It's, And so when I take a look then, even as much as that was always prevalent in my life, and now I take a look at it, and there were pieces that I was missing in my own toolkit around leadership and development and so on too. And that's where the AE processes and tools and that awareness really, really starts to fit in. And I mean, you know what it's like. I'm sure you've talked about it with your audience. And one of the pieces that I did for AE, I talked about it. And the first time I ever held my grandson was so magical. And he's born, he's an infant. There's like the programming hasn't started yet, and if you ever hold an infant like that and you look into their eyes and they just stare, and they just look unabashedly into your eyes, and there's no shame, there's no embarrassment, they just connect, they just see you. And my dream is to help leaders get to a place where they regain that comfort of looking into the eyes and seeing the souls and the hearts of the people that they lead. And that is the beauty of this work. The beautiful work that's done on contact, the beautiful work that's done on, just opening your own heart. And, because we can never force other people to open their hearts.
Right.
We can create a powerful invitation for them to meet us there and to open their hearts. But I can't, just like ordering only goes so far in the military. I can't say, Andrew, open your heart now. It's like, what? It's like, but for me to demonstrate that I'm entirely willing to be vulnerable, to hold my heart open, to tell you of my dreams, of my wishes, of my failures, of, where I know I can still grow and improve, demonstrates a willingness, a confidence to step into your own vulnerability. That is one of the most powerful invitations you can ever imagine. And when you can do that, either person to person or even as a leader in front of a team, it's like the union that comes together is just unimaginable. And that's when the magic starts to happen, when you create that quality of contact between people. And so, I look at this and sort of say, at this point, I'm still doing it for myself because I'm still opening up and learning and growing, and I love it. But I'm also mostly doing it for my grandson and his children and the children that'll follow. Like, I need to be different so they can be allowed to be different. And that's the invitation that I want to create for everybody that I come in contact with.
Well, thank you for bringing your experience and your heart to, support future generations. And always, it's also an inspiration to see, you've lived a lot of life. You're technically retired. You don't have to do any of this, but you're in that mindset of continuous growth, serving others, living the most fulfilling experience you can have. And that's just powerful to me. So I appreciate you living by example that way. I have another person who's sort of a mentor brother of mine. He's Quechua from Peru. He's an Quechua elder from Peru. And, we have in the Western world, we can often have this motto of like work for 30 or 40 years and then you retire and then you just chill, just do whatever you want, chill, and then society also kind of pushes people to the side as well. So it's sort of like this dynamic that happens. But he speaks about when you get to the stage of elderhood, he sees there's these phases through life. There's when you're youth and you're a student, and then you grow and you become a teacher, and then you become a teacher of teachers, and then you become an elder. And when you're an elder, then your life gets really busy. And he says it from a joyful place, but that's that perspective of like, there's sort of this backwards perspective that we have of like, you work your butt off and then you're old and then you just sit around. Whereas I think that healthy perspective is you live your life in a way that's genuine. You do what you're called to do. You do your dharma essentially. And then when you become an elder, your life is busy because you've got things to do. You've got a world to take care of. You've got people to look after. You've got wisdom and life experience to share. And it's not coming from a place necessarily of obligation. Maybe there's a piece of that, at least from my own observation from where I'm at, but it's from the joy. It's from a genuine joy and a desire and a sense of fulfillment. And that's that place I see you coming from. And that's that place that I aspire to grow to and come from, until the day that I die. And so I really appreciate that. And this is why I want to do these interviews, because it's people like you in my life, like other people need to be exposed to good people to really see that and know that they can embody that energy.
Thank you. Well, your beard is still too dark, and your hairline is still way too far down your head. So you're well on your way. But
Kelly keeps telling me she bought me some Rogaine against my own consent. And she keeps telling me that my hair is thinning, and I'm like, my hair is not thinning. All the men in my family, my grandparents, my great grandparents, they all had a whole head of hair. And she's like, no, I'm just telling you, it's kind of thinning. You should do this. And I've been in denial about that because my belief is that I don't have to deal with that. But who knows? Maybe I will.
Yeah.
And but my grandpa has a full white beard on my dad's side, and so I mostly have his genetics. So I'll probably end up with a full white head of hair and a white beard. So I can look forward to that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this interview's been awesome, Jim. I think we kind of went right to the heart of it pretty quick there, and I just appreciate your shares so much. And just time, I also, I get to know you a little bit better too. Obviously, we've hung out, we've shared with one another, but this is a more succinct and focused share. So I feel like I got to know you a little better as well. And I'd love it if you could just share with people how, if there's anyone who watches this and they feel inspired, or they connect to you or the work that you do, or feel like you could be a support to them, how would someone reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, so my passion is in serving, and just aiming for promotion. I'm in a place where I say, look, if we end up spending a little bit of time together, you serve me best by simply making a contribution to one of the veterans food banks, or I know it's coming up on Remembrance Day here in Canada, and Veterans Week in the US as well, and so that matters a lot to me in terms of helping people that have served and given of themselves in that way. And I mean, if somebody want to reach out, you see my name on the screen. If that goes through, Andrew, the way you put it up, so my email address is all one word, JimDonihee@gmail.com, or you can reach me through Andrew, I'm sure. And my passion is in helping people grow, helping people find themselves, and just moving forward in the best way possible in their own lives. So,
because you are working with one-on-one clients right now, is that correct?
Yeah, I do one-on-one work with clients, and certainly with corporate teams and people of that nature. So that's kind of my sweet spot, and I love just helping people find themselves and making a difference in their lives.
Nice. Well, awesome, Jim. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all your contribution and the example that you share for others around you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Andrew. I admire you, and I know anybody in your audience that the first place they should look for someone with a friggin' big heart and tremendous skill set is on the screen here right beside me, and that's you, because you're a tremendous leader, tremendous man. I'm privileged to work with you, and I enjoy every moment.
Thank you so much, Jim. I really take those words to heart, and I feel honored. So,
thank you.
All right, everyone. Retired Colonel Jim Donihee. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for your time, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you got value out of this video, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. and make sure you click the bell so that you get notifications for the next videos that we put out. We've got a lot of amazing content, videos, and interviews coming up. So you'll definitely want to get the notifications because we're interviewing some amazing people. We've got a lot of cool things happening. So you're going to want to make sure you get those notifications. And then you can also follow Embody the Practice on Facebook and Instagram. You can also go to my website, embodythepractice.com. You can contact me. You can learn more about the coaching that I offer and learn more about how we can support you to live a greater life of strength, health, and happiness in all areas of your life. So I look forward to connecting with you more. And until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and stay healthy out there.